Simon Cowell stopped the audition mid-sentence. He held up one hand. The entire auditorium went silent. Then he looked at the piece of paper the boy had placed on the judge's table. He said, very quietly, "Where did you get this?" Another Tuesday night taping. The Pasadena Civic Auditorium, packed with 3,000 people. Cameras rolling. Millions watching from home. Another hopeful contestant stepping into the spotlight. Howie Mandel had his chin resting on his hand. Heidi Klum was smiling the open, ready smile she saved for the young ones. Sofia Vergara had her pen uncapped. Simon Cowell sat at the center. Black shirt. Arms crossed. That familiar expression of measured skepticism, sealed and permanent, like something carved rather than worn. Just another audition. Just another Tuesday night. The boy who walked out was 14 years old. Small for his age. Dark-eyed. He wore a white button-down shirt ironed with obvious care. Dark trousers, slightly too long. The hems folded up once at the ankle. He carried a single sheet of paper, folded in thirds, held against his chest with both hands. He walked to the center of the stage. He stood there. He looked out at the audience the way people look at something vast and unfamiliar, like he was trying to decide if it was safe. Terry Crews came out to meet him. Warm, enormous, immediately reassuring. "Hey buddy, tell me your name." "Eli," the boy said. "Eli Marsh. Eli Marsh. Good name. How old are you, Eli?" 14. More warm applause from the crowd. Terry crouched slightly, making himself smaller. "And what are you going to do for us today?" "I'm going to sing," Eli said. "A song my dad used to sing to me." A small murmur moved through the audience. Terry nodded gently. "And where's your dad tonight, Eli?" The boy's jaw tightened, barely visible. The tiniest adjustment. "He died," Eli said, 3 years ago. He paused, but before he died, he told me something. And nobody believed him. Another pause. "I'm here because I have proof he was right." The room shifted. Not dramatically, but perceptibly. The way air shifts when a window opens somewhere nearby. Howie Mandel sat forward. Sofia Vergara set her pen down. Heidi Klum's smile changed into something more careful, more attentive. Simon Cowell looked up from his notes for the first time. He looked at the boy, at the piece of paper held against the boy's chest. "What kind of proof?" Simon said. "This." Eli Marsh walked toward the judge's table. He set the folded paper down in front of Simon Cowell. He stepped back. He folded his hands in front of him and waited. Simon Cowell looked at the paper. He looked at the boy. He picked up the paper and unfolded it. He stopped the audition mid-sentence. He held up one hand. He read the page again. Slowly, then he set it down on the table, placed both palms flat beside it, and looked up. His face had done something that the cameras caught and that no one watching at home would quite be able to describe. Something had shifted behind his eyes. Something had arrived. He said, very quietly, "Where did you get this?" To understand what happened next, you need to understand what happened 11 years earlier. In 2015, a man named David Marsh drove to an open audition in downtown Los Angeles. He had a song he had written himself. He had a belief so strong he had staked 6 years of his life on it. David was 38. A postal worker. He had been singing in his church since he was 9 years old. Community events, local venues, open mic nights since his 20s. And writing songs. In the kitchen of his apartment in Pasadena, after his wife and son went to sleep. He was not discovered. He was not represented. He was not connected to anyone who could make a phone call on his behalf. What he had was the song. It was called Ordinary. It was about the dignity of invisible labor, the people who deliver the mail, who clean the offices, who stock the shelves and go home quietly and do it all again the next day. It was not a flashy song. It had no theatrical runs, no pyrotechnic climax. It was measured, unhurried, built on a melody so simple that you felt, upon hearing it, that you had always known it, that you had simply forgotten. David had been writing and revising it for 6 years. He knew it was finished when he could not improve a single line. He drove to the open audition. He waited 4 hours in a folding chair in a corridor. He walked into a small room. A camera. 2 producers. He sang Ordinary in its entirety without accompaniment, just his voice and the room. One of the producers stopped him halfway through. "Thank you," she said. The way that means stop. He drove home. He sat in the car for a while. Then he went inside and told his wife Carol that it had not gone well. He tried twice more in the following year. Different auditions, different shows, different rooms with cameras and producers who thanked him in the middle of the song. Each time he came home and sat in the car. Each time he went inside and told Carol it had not gone well. His friends told him to stop. They said it kindly. They meant it kindly. They said he had a good voice, a beautiful voice. But this was a hard industry. He had a son to think about, a job that paid reliably. Some things were not meant to be. David Marsh listened to all of it. He nodded. He thanked them for their concern. Then he went home and kept writing. He wrote a letter, not to a show, not to a record label. He wrote it to Simon Cowell specifically, care of the production company address he found on a public filing. He had watched Simon for years, not because he agreed with every verdict, because he believed Simon could hear something the rest of the industry had stopped listening for. Honesty, not polish. Not marketability. Honesty. The letter was 3 pages. It described the song, what it was about, why he had written it, what he believed it could do for the people it was about. It was not a plea for a break. It was not flattery. It was a straightforward argument, laid out with the precision of a man who had thought about nothing else for 6 years. Ordinary was a real song about a real thing. Someone should hear it properly before the world decided otherwise. He included a handwritten copy of the full lyrics, every verse, every line. He sealed the envelope and posted it, and tried not to think about it. 3 weeks later, he received a reply, not a form letter, not an assistant's response. A single typed page on production company letterhead with 4 sentences. Simon Cowell's 4 sentences said, he had read the letter. He had read the lyrics. He believed David Marsh had written something genuine. The industry had not yet found a place for it. That was the industry's failure, not the song's. And he said one more thing. He said, keep going. David Marsh sat at the kitchen table for a long time after reading that. Then he folded the letter. He put it in the drawer beside his bed, where he kept the things that mattered most. He kept going. He performed at church events and community fundraisers and small venues and open mic nights. He revised the song twice more. He submitted to 2 more auditions and was thanked mid-song both times. He kept going. In 2019, David Marsh was diagnosed with an aggressive form of pancreatic cancer. He was 42. Eli was 11. He had 8 months. He spent them carefully. He did not spend them being angry, though he had the right. He spent them at home. He taught Eli every song he knew. He played guitar badly. He sang well. He made Eli sing with him every evening until it was a habit Eli couldn't break. Which was the point. He told Eli about Ordinary. He played it for him on a Saturday afternoon. Carol cooked in the kitchen. The light came through the window and landed on the floor in a long stripe. He told Eli the song was real, that he had proof, that one day Eli would know what to do with it. He told him, "The world is full of people who will tell you something isn't worth doing. Most of them are wrong. Keep going." He died in the spring. Eli was 11 years old, sitting in a chair beside the bed, holding his father's hand. Carol held the other one. After the funeral, Eli found the letter. It was in the drawer beside the bed, exactly where David had always kept it. Eli read it 4 times. Then he sat with it for a long time. He was 11 years old. He understood one thing clearly. His father had been right about the song, and Simon Cowell had said so. In writing. On a Tuesday in 2015, 3 years before Eli's father died and 2 years before anyone had any reason to doubt it, he decided he would use the letter when he was ready. He practiced every evening. He sang Ordinary until he knew it the way his father had known it. Not just the words, not just the melody. The weight of it. The thing it was trying to say. He sang it in the kitchen while Carol washed up. He sang it in his room before school. He sang it quietly, with no runs and no flourishes, the way his father had always insisted it should be sung. Plain, honest, like the people it was about. 3 years later, at 14, he submitted an audition video. He did not mention the letter in the video. He saved it. He thought that was the end of the story. Until tonight, on the stage of the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, Eli Marsh stood with his hands folded. He watched Simon Cowell read his father's letter for the second time in 11 years. The room held its breath. All of it. 3,000 people and 4 judges and every camera in the building, all pointed at a man reading a piece of paper in silence. Simon set the letter down. He pressed both palms flat beside it. He looked at Eli Marsh, 14 years old, white shirt ironed with care, hems folded up at the ankle. His voice, when it came, was careful and low. "I wrote this," he said. It was not a question. "Yes," Eli said. "I meant it. I know." Eli looked at him steadily. "My dad knew too. That's why he kept it." Howie Mandel had both hands pressed to his mouth. Heidi Klum's eyes were bright and full. Sofa Vergara sat very still, watching Simon the way you watch someone navigate something real. Simon Cowell stood up. He stepped around the judges' table. He had never once crossed onto the stage floor before a contestant performed in 15 seasons. He did it now. He walked to where Eli Marsh was standing. He stood in front of the boy and looked at him for a long moment. Then he put a hand on Eli's shoulder and said, "Your father was right. Share this if it moved you. Subscribe so you never miss a moment like this one." The audience came apart. Standing, every person in the building, the sound pressing up against the ceiling and rolling back down like something physical, like weather. Heidi Klum was on her feet with tears running and not trying to stop them. Howie Mandel stood with his hands pressed together in front of his face. Sofa Vergara had one hand over her heart. Simon stepped back. He looked at Eli. He nodded once, the nod that says go, and walked back to the judge's table. Eli Marsh turned to face the auditorium. He closed his eyes for 3 full seconds. He opened them. He began to sing Ordinary, his father's song. 6 years in the writing, 2 decades unheard, plain and unhurried, built on a melody so simple it felt remembered rather than new. He sang it without runs, without flourishes, without anything his father would have taken out. He sang it the way David Marsh had always insisted it should be sung, like he meant every word. He did mean every word. When the last note settled, the silence lasted 5 full seconds. Then the room came undone completely. Standing ovation, all 3,000, the kind of noise that is not applause but something older and more involuntary. Howie Mandel was on his feet. Heidi Klum had her hands in the air. Sofia Vergara was crying openly. Simon Cowell reached forward. No hesitation, no pause for effect. He pressed the golden buzzer without a word. Eli Marsh stood in the gold confetti and looked out at the auditorium. He was 14 years old. He had his father's song and his father's proof, and the knowledge that the world had finally heard both. He did not pump his fist. He did not scream. He just stood there in the light, with his eyes open and his hems folded up at the ankle, and let it land. In the months that followed, Ordinary was released as a single. It reached the top 20 in 3 countries. The Postal Workers Union in California used it in a campaign to recognize essential workers. Every cent of Eli's initial royalties went into a fund Carol Marsh set up in David's name for undiscovered songwriters over 40, the ones who were still keeping going, against all advice. Simon Cowell has kept the original letter in a drawer in his office ever since, the one David Marsh wrote in 2015. 3 handwritten pages. He has not moved it. He does not intend to. Some people spend their whole lives being right. They just need one person to say so out loud.